Welcome to another lore video, and there have been some more changes to the Thargoid war machine for us to analyse and process and factor into our fight back, so let's get started. In the last couple of videos I mentioned that to make things a bit more exciting they could just have populated systems in the war zone bypass the alert stage and go directly to invasion. It's not a new idea, players have been suggesting it for months. But now it's actually happened, and that's one of the changes in the last week. When we saw this announcement earlier, we thought, okay, some systems will go straight to invasion, and some will still go to alert first, and I guess we'll have to wait and see which ones and what, if any, pattern there is to it. But what will happen to the unpopulated systems? Will they get invaded and go straight to control? Or will they be ignored and only populated systems targeted? And we couldn't know that until the tick on Thursday, but now we do. Unpopulated systems are no longer being attacked at all. There were 8 invaded systems this week which have not gone to alert first, and there are no unpopulated alerts, only populated ones. From what we can tell so far, it's the 3 closest populated systems to the Titan that go to invasion, the rest go to alert, up to the limit of the alerts that each Titan can produce each week. In Thor's case, that's why there's only 2 invasions, because its ability to attack systems and create new alerts was already compromised, so that's why it's only got 2, where Rajin and Casio have 3. I also speculated in the last video that only attacking populated systems could be seen as either lashing out, or it could be seen as consolidating their attacks. And it seems as if the latter is the one that they're going for in the narrative. In this article, Aegis confirms that unpopulated systems are being ignored completely, and they're going for the consolidate and survive option. Expansion efforts have slowed in recent weeks. Now they've got evidence of a tactical shift. The Thargoids have got more defensive, reinforcing their current position rather than expanding too much outwards, targeting and invading populated systems exclusively, without their normal scouting operations, in other words, without going to alert first. And a doctor from the Holloway Bioscience Institute has said the lack of scouting is a bit he finds the most interesting. A military man may claim it may be a desperate enemy lashing out at its opponent. That is one point of view that was put across. But I see something deeper, he says. Foregoing expansions to prioritise the defence of the remaining Titans is intelligent, not desperate. Well, yeah, that's also a military tactic in itself. It's called consolidate and survive. These attacks seem just as calculated. They're gathering data, probing our defences, analysing where the remaining resources may be best used. And again, this whole idea that they're gathering data, probing our defences, leaving aside what they could possibly know about how we fight that they don't know already. Again, that makes it feel like we're just being tested by this war machine. And even if we manage to defeat it, it won't really move us along in terms of defeating the Thargoids completely, if that's what people want to do. And may not be really hurting the Thargoids as much as we imagine it is, would like it to be, or what have you. So, and then it goes on to talk about Counterstrike systems. I'll get to those later because they merit a little discussion of their own. There's been a change there, but we will come to that. So that's the official take on things, as it were. Don't interpret it as them giving up. That's fine, we won't. But they've crippled their own ability to expand by no longer attacking uninhabited systems. Uninhabited systems are the route to reaching more inhabited systems. There's a lot more of them. So they've made any expansion and subsequent invasion more difficult for themselves, even without our attempts to reduce their ability to produce new alerts. And in the process, they've given us even more power to keep them contained while we take them out. The bit about testing and probing our defences once again makes it feel like they've been experimenting on us all along. That's a feeling I've had since the start of the war. There's no reason why they should have to do war our way. There's no logic at all behind the idea of beachheads and choke points and supply lines where you have the additional dimension of hyperspace that can bypass all the other dimensions at will. So that part never made any sense. But it would if the Thargoids were experimenting on us, or that could just be my tinfoil trying to resolve what I see as a contradiction. Whatever the case, there are two other significant changes that will come into play now while we're taking down Indra and from next week onwards. The first is that the protection offered by Ramtar on Guardian weapons, not the Salvation modified ones, but regular Guardian weapons, that's been improved. When this improvement was first introduced, you could go to Ramtar and engineer, for example, a Class 3 Guardian shard cannon so that it wouldn't degrade in a Titan system, or presumably systems like HIP 22460 as well. So you could use those weapons against a Titan, but at a cost of losing 20% of their damage. That was still worth it, because they still did a lot more damage than anything else, but that damage penalty has now been removed entirely. So Guardian weapons will now do their full damage in any system where normally those modules would degrade and become inoperable. I'm still using Sirius AX missiles for Titan runs, and they work okay for me, but if you're up for min-maxing your Titan core damage, then perhaps take a look at getting some Class 3 Guardian shard cannons or Class 3 plasma cannons and getting them modified by Ramtar for doing some significant and serious core damage. But that's not all. As well as protecting weapons, the improved modifications can now protect modules as well. FSD boosters, Guardian module reinforcements, so you can take those in there too. There is one caveat though. If you come up against a glaive, the anti-Guardian field of the glaive will still affect your modules, so be aware of that. You might want to take a small AFMU with you in case, or, be prepared for that. Titan instances, especially in open, were getting overcrowded and buggy, so the amount of Thargoid ships in an instance at a Titan has been reduced to help with this, and improvements made to the venting cycle. This is good, because the number of ships was escalating madly before this until they started causing glitches in the instance itself, like the vents and cores not working properly. And if you talk to AXI or XSF, they'll tell you that actually a small wing in a private group is the way to go when killing cores. Just get 2 to 4 of you together and just hammer the core between you. And, that keeps the bugs to a minimum. You can get quite a few runs in without the instance getting overly crowded or starting to glitch on you, and that seems to be the way to go when you're Titan bombing. A small wing in a private group. The other change is to the wider war itself. For ages now we've all been scratching our heads about why FDev have been going on and on about Counter-Strike systems when there's nothing that special about them. You've heard me say this before, I know, but there's nothing in them that you can't do in a regular control system. And the only thing that affects Counter-Strikes, which doesn't affect other controls, is Titan rescues. It's a bit like telling us to kill Orthruses and then not putting a bonus in the game for doing it, leaves us wondering what the point is. And then, when recent patches said that more and more Counter-Strikes would be generated, it was still no clearer about why they were a big deal. It meant more systems that could be progressed by Titan rescues, and that was no bad thing in itself, but beyond that there was a general feeling of, so what? There was still nothing to really make Counter-Strike stand out, or anything about them that justified the label of Counter-Strike in the first place. Attacking them doesn't slow expansion faster, it doesn't reduce alerts faster, it doesn't clear systems faster, so what's the deal? Well, now there might actually be something about them that actually justifies the name Counter-Strike. I mentioned this briefly earlier and said we'd get to it. This is what it's about. Previously populated Counter-Strike systems will now have one port active. There won't be any missions there, but you will be able to dock and repair and refuel and rearm. This has been a big obstacle to people who want to fight in controls. With nowhere to repair, you have to jump out to a carrier or another port, fix yourself up, restock your ammo and go back in. So being able to dock at a port in the control system itself is a good step. And finally, the name Counter-Strike gets some meaning that is relevant to its description. Because from these ports, of course, we can launch a counter-offensive. Planetary ports will be favoured if they exist, and space ports will only be used if there are no ground ports. This makes them more accessible to more players. Ground ports are popular as they are because there are no interceptor swarms, and they're the biggest hassle for an anti-Xeno newbie or a casual player. They needed to open up control systems to the more casual anti-Xeno pilot to keep them involved, so this is another good move. It's only going to happen in a Titan with the fewest systems, so it won't be till next week that we'll see the first of these active ports in Counterstrikes in operation and see how that really pans out. Indra is a system with the fewest systems at the moment, at 0. Bit silly, I know, but that's the mechanic. So next week we will see the first of these new active ports in Thor. There are a few worries about the speed at which Indra is going down. Normally the Titan would be destroyed by now, which is Monday morning my time, and yet it's only got 4 hearts done. Some people are blaming the 8 invasions for distracting people. Some people have pointed out that this week we've had a national holiday in America for the 4th of July and a general election here in the UK. And it's also holiday time for many people as well. The kids are off school for a few weeks. Over here is traditionally when a lot of families go on holiday. All of these are probably contributing factors in their own way. But equally, it could be that doing bombing runs on a Titan, now we've done it 4 times already, does get a bit monotonous after a while, and so some of it could equally be for no special reason at all, but people simply just not being as keen for it as they were. Again, whatever the case, from now on it's going to be pretty straightforward. With the new balance passes, the choice of which Titan to do next is simply going to be the one with the fewest systems. It will have the most counter-strikes and will be the one with the most anti-Xeno conflict zones, because they'll be in every control system. So any nuance in strategy is gone from that point of view, and the order of which Titan to do next will be dictated by the number of systems remaining. And then it will be simply a case of steadily hammering at them until they're gone. Unless, of course, they want to throw more curveballs at us. But if they do, it doesn't change what we're doing now. People keep saying, oh, they could throw something new at you yet. Yes, they could. But what do you suggest we do? Sit around doing nothing in case that happens? That makes no sense, and it makes no difference right now. There are things we can do for now, and if any curveball's going to mess with that somewhere down the line, we'll deal with it as and when. We'll examine any new situation, we'll run tests if necessary, and we'll adapt our strategy as we need to. Simple as. No drama, just examine a new situation, work out the best tactics for dealing with it, and adjust our strategy accordingly. Stay safe, and as always, thanks for watching. Since recording this morning, Indra has now gone down, so despite the delay taking till Monday morning, early Monday morning, to get rid of 4 hearts, the other 4 have gone down at a rate of knots. Indra is now gone. Anybody going in and doing pod rescues, Lady Lucida, Operation Thunderstruck, now's your chance, get in there. And that's that. So 3 left. We'll see what happens on Thursday, we'll see what happens with any other updates, but for now, that is 5 Titans down and counting.